this afternoon. Mr. George, thank you very much for making the time. A very, very important occasion. The State of the Nation address, one of those occasions that brings together all three arms of the state. It's the government that's led by President Ramaphosa. It's the legislature that's led by the Speaker of Parliament, who is your boss. And then it's the judiciary led by the Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. Why am I detailing all this? There is an outcry, at least from a section of the population, that says, tone down on the pomp and ceremony. I know the Speaker has been at pains to explain why this is important, but perhaps let's hear it from you. Why should it happen at a time when people are really struggling economically?
Well, good afternoon, Polly, and good afternoon to Newzroom Afrika viewers. Indeed, this is a very important and special day in the history of South Africa. As you correctly say, under difficult circumstances, not of our choice, we are meeting here at this most historical site where our first founding president of Democratic South Africa stood in front of that balcony, and with the current president holding the mic for him. And if you all recall what the president said, amongst many other things, he says, I'm here in front of you dedicating the remainder of my life to you in service of you, the people. And that's the most fundamental issue. That was a promise of humility, a promise of commitment to serve. There can be no better day that the current president will be standing on the dais right in front with Madiba's statue overlooking him, to see to it that the commitments to serve our people better. We take progressive steps to realize that the duty of Parliament today is that on this very important day, almost close to 33 years when Madiba stood there, we find ourselves coming back to this site, looking forward optimistically to what the President of the Republic will convey as a message of South Africans, a message of hope. And our own duty as Parliament is to do what our theme is for this, which is following up on our commitments to serve the people, to improve the lives of the people. So every year the President would outline the state of the nation and outline progress made by his government in ensuring that it translates the commitment that has been made. So members of Parliament will be here in full, and the context is a bit different probably this year. You will recall that the last 2 years we had operations of Parliament under COVID lockdown conditions, both in 2021, before our Parliament was burnt down, and early this 2022, 2nd of January, we had to start coming to this City Hall. And in both those years, there were levels of lockdown, limitations of members. Now we have all the regulations lifted. We would have the full house of guests. Full house in the context is still limited because we can only have 263 people as guests. International guests, national guests, and guests from Africa that are hosted by the Speaker of Parliament and the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces. Now, in this context, Xolile, this is a full service in the context that everyone will be present here, so there will be a full ceremonial honors in terms of what traditions of Sona are. Before, things had to be curtailed in the context that certain things can be done, few members can be in. Now full members are there, full guests are operating under eventually no restrictions in terms of crowd gathering. And part of the work that we are doing is to make sure that this day is not a day for Parliament, it's a day for South Africans, it's a day for all three arms of the state, but affording the head of state and head of government to outline his vision and commitments to the people.
If I could pick up on the element that you've just said, that this day is not only for those that are attending here, the dignitaries, but it's a day for South Africans. But there is a promise, and it's a promise that in all likelihood will be fulfilled by at least one political party represented here, and that's the EFF, and they have made it clear that the President will not address this evening simply because they have put out their reasons for why he is not suited to deliver the State of the Nation address. The plans to try and make sure that that does not come to pass. What are the plans?
Well, part of any preparations for an event of this magnitude and scale is multi-encompassing, and it integrates both the work of Parliament in terms of logistical planning, the security detail of Parliament, and also the security detail of the state apparatus. So there are plans ordinarily in terms of ensuring that the event is successful, the event is safe, and I have no doubt that those plans are in place and they would be operated according to the prescripts.
You've said that this occasion is an occasion for ordinary South Africans. Do you think South Africans have the appetite to watch the theatrics that are going to happen there today? Because some people will feel very strongly about that use of the word, political theatrics, the disruptions that will occur there. Is that what you think South Africans want to hear at a time like this in the country, when there is a lack of energy that has a direct impact on their lives, and they want to hear how this is going to be resolved so that they do not lose any more of their jobs than they already have?
Well, Xolile, I can't preempt the President's message, but I have no doubt this is a message that will deliver hope, the message that will practicalize how to respond to macro challenges facing our country, challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality, which are contributing to a lot of sense of restlessness to people. The issues you are raising about energy, the difficulties of unemployment, and so on. I'm sure the message of the President will communicate that message of hope. And secondly, people of South Africa do want to listen to the President delivering a message in Parliament. I have no doubt most people will be watching. Most people will be keenly awaiting the commitments that the President would outline in communicating a message of hope.
Mr. George, the Parliament, the seat of Parliament, has not covered itself in glory, particularly from the era of state capture that we come from. And Parliament was directly pointed as being complicit or being part of the problem of not being able to stop state capture. And part of that, as the President put it at the Commission of Inquiry, was that the balance of power inside the governing party is perhaps what delayed the investigations into state capture by this House. Can you say that things are different in this sixth Parliament in terms of the job that you're supposed to do now, which is to hold the executive accountable?
Well, as you all remember, Xolile, in October, the President delivered in Parliament a report on the implementation plan of the Zondo Commission for Parliament to look at areas that the Judicial Commission on State Capture made recommendations on the role of the legislative arm of the state. So those reports are being taken through the process of Parliament in terms of both houses to make sure that there's structured response by Parliament. And we're also glad that in the reporting by the President in communicating that message, he also indicated that there's a need for Parliament to be resourced properly to make sure that it's able to discharge its responsibility to hold the executive and scrutinize every action of the executive. So Parliament will be looking at those reports in a structured manner to make sure that measures that must strengthen the oversight mechanism and capability of Parliament are strengthened. Yeah. And Parliament remains committed to implement all the key recommendations that have been outlined.
You yourself have come to occupy a position that was left by your predecessor, and he did leave under a cloud. I don't think that we can mince the words around that. What is being done by Parliament to make sure, because that's your job right now, to make sure that malfeasance does not happen here?
Well, we are quite vigilant, Xolile, on issues like that. Earlier this week, presiding officers, the Speaker and the Chairperson, outlined the state of readiness for us to host Sona, and in the process also outlined not only measures, but the budgetary provisions of Parliament to make sure that as we implement the State of the Nation address, we do so in a manner that follows precision, not only on supply issues, but generally to make sure that this event runs smoothly. The unfortunate part, Xolile, which everybody acknowledges, this is off-site broadcasting. We had to declare this as part of Parliamentary Precinct because of the unfortunate incident of fire that gutted down buildings of Parliament. So what it means, all the investment we had in that gutted down facility included broadcasting infrastructure, all wiped out. Broadcasting, ICT, which are the main drivers of hosting an event like this. The cost of the city to give us the city hall is insignificant in many ways because of what it provides to us as convenient. But daily cost drivers we have. We mentioned, for instance, that we have budgeted 8.2 million rand to host not only Sona, plus the debates, 2 days from next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, plus the reply of the president on Thursday. A week thereafter, it is the delivery by Minister of Finance of budget. That entails replies and debates. Monday, we had a memorial service here. So all this infrastructure that you have that communicates with Africans started not only this Monday, day before. So when you look at the budget, not the actual expenditure, would cover all those areas compared to a year before where we budgeted half of that amount because we only delivered Sona here. The budget was delivered in the chamber, in the Good Hope chamber. So those issues are very important to be contextualized, not only on the cost limitation, we're very conscious on that, but we're looking at also the economic spin-off, the injection that comes to the city of Cape Town as a result of this event. So it will be very important that, yes, to be concerned correctly so, given the limitation of the fiscus on the cost drivers. But we must also balance with the economic investment injection, which is very central to boosting the economy that is tankering.
Very briefly, sir, we're out of time. The speaker mentioned on our channel just this week in the lead up to this that the discussions around actually moving Parliament away from Cape Town or the Western Cape, those are actually very serious discussions. So where are we around that, and what is the driving force behind that?
Well, I think, Madam Speaker, in outlining that on Monday, I am sure that she made a distinction about two things that sometimes we tend to conflate whenever there's calls. Parliament must move. That's a separate call altogether. The seat of Parliament, as determined in terms of the Powers and Privileges Act, it is Cape Town, the seat where Parliament is. To determine otherwise, as outlined in the Constitution, Parliament can convene anywhere, like it has now, to convene. But that is relocation, relocating the seat to elsewhere. But here, there
are those serious discussions underway?
There was work done by Parliament in 2018 in a form of a socio-economic study that Parliament resolved that it must be undertaken. That work has been done, completed. It presented options around how this matter can be done. But where we have now, we have to restore relocation, moving elsewhere if there's a decision. Restore of a heritage building like we have that is carried down must be done, and it will be done by Parliament in terms of the law. And part of the resources that we have been allocated, the 2 billion rand, by the Minister of Finance, that will be properly appropriated now in February 22nd, will help us respond in implementing the restoration of Parliament, which we will call the media fairly soon as Parliament to outline what measures are we starting to implement now on the restoration project.
Xolile George, thank you very much for your time. The Secretary of Parliament, Stephen Protus, you have heard relocation. Let's be specific here. Relocation. Perhaps that's a discussion to be had some other time, but right now the priority is to restore the heritage site that is the seat of Parliament, and that's the old Assembly building that was gutted. Stephen, it's back to you for the moment.